I think we are good. I don't know. Maybe this YouTube is no good though. Uh-oh. That's not good.
We're live. I don't know if YouTube is live.
Yeah, I don't know if YouTube is live.
There you go.
But that doesn't have both of us on there?
I'll tell you in a second. Yep, just has you.
This isn't working out very well. I might have to end the YouTube stream and just go. This is not the feed we want. Oh, this is annoying. I'm going to end the YouTube. I'm going to end the YouTube and just go to the StreamYard.
All right.
Can you send out the StreamYard?
I think that was deleted by you. Let me see if I could send the other one out. Yeah.
I ended the YouTube.
Okay.
Well, these guys say, well, I turned it off of YouTube because it was only showing me. I see people in the chat. Are you still there? Hello, speak.
Me? I'm here.
Yeah, but are there? Okay, still on. YouTube is but I can't. It was only the YouTube wasn't showing both of us, was it?
No, it was not. But if I send out StreamYard, I don't know that it's going to show anything. It'll only show on Twitter, maybe.
Wow. They said they could see us both.
Yeah, something's happening on your end, probably.
Boy, this is. Well, I can't restart it.
No, we'd have to exit and start again. You'd have to give me a whole new address.
Oh, they say we're both on somehow.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, okay. So, all right, guys. We're trying something new, trying to get this thrown to YouTube at the same time. And it's just, actually, I see the YouTube chat is still going. So,
I see us now.
That's strange. Okay, now we're good to go. Sorry about that, guys. This is the most impromptu get-together thing that you have ever witnessed on the history of YouTube. This is like Watson, can you hear me now or something, whatever. So quickly, Ron, recovering from COVID. We haven't spoken in like 2 weeks. We don't waste any time normally with BS or anything like that, but we need a quick update. Ron, you had COVID, you were sick, I was concerned, everything's okay. What's your update?
My update is I'm COVID-free and feeling more like myself right now. So I'm appreciative of that.
Okay, that was very concise there. I myself just got out of the hospital. I feel like shucks, and I've been zoned out for 4 days. No Twitter, as little notifications as possible. I do not know what the hell's been going on. So this is going to be really good for anybody because we got to catch each other up on some stuff because we're long overdue to have another one of these to catch each other up. And I need some catch up over the last few days. And my prognosis is fine, but I was on some serious drugs and I've downgraded the Jonathan Taylor still a Colt. That's nice. I've downgraded the pain medication I'm on, but let me tell you something. I was mashed potatoes for 4 days. I literally would struggle to respond to a text and notifications on Twitter or even scrolling Twitter. I still have not scrolled Twitter since Monday. So my routine is completely off. So hate to just trying to answer as many questions as possible because people know I was out of commission there. Glad to see you back in the fold, Ron. You had your big long vacation. You made everyone jealous because you went to Iceland, and I have gone nowhere once again, and that's going to end next summer. And I'm going to brag and talk about all the great places I go next year. So, first and foremost, you got anything going on in this NCAA tonight?
I have Georgia Tech tonight, plays that I made 2 months ago, because the important thing about balancing work, sports betting and life, is that you don't want to leave everything to the last minute. And Chris, as you know, most of my work is done in July and August. Otherwise, you or I, we couldn't, if we had to catch up now, we wouldn't have been able to with all the health issues that have been going on. So all my plays for this week were made over a month ago, some of them 2 months ago, because I'd already done the work. And I don't, sometimes I'll see something new, a line will change, but so far I haven't seen anything else. So I have my feet wet with Georgia Tech. The original line was plus 8.5, went down to 7.5, but I see it's probably about 8 now. So we're right in the same ballpark from where I got the line.
Let's see. I don't see any 8s. We lost those 8s, my friend.
Oh, there were 8s about a half hour ago.
Yeah, well, life happens. So we're going to look at this in action because this is exactly how we process, where I know Ron has done his homework. And so I'm going to put in a small little play on that Georgia Tech and trust his work. And it's not freeloading because we both have a nice equal exchange of information. And I want to ride along with him and root it in with you. So I just sent it out, and I need to bet it someplace. I'm going to do that we're going to do that live.
Yeah, this is like last year, betting San Francisco to win the division right while we were talking. So you never know what comes up. I'll give you a couple while you're doing that. A reason I like Georgia Tech is primarily because Louisville is going through a lot of changes right now. A long-time quarterback change, a scheme change, some running back depth issues. I like the fact that Jeff Brom returned to his alma mater now instead of 3 or 4 years ago. I understand that the transfer portal works so that you could upgrade your roster a little bit faster. I don't have a problem necessarily with Louisville being better than Georgia Tech by the end of the year, but I think we're discounting the fact that there's a little bit more continuity with Georgia Tech. They know what they are. You're asking Louisville to cover by more than a touchdown with generally a new backfield. And so I think I'm okay with Georgia Tech. Could they get blown out? Of course they could get blown out. The best handicappers are going to lose 40-something% of the time. So this is just a one-game sample size. But my numbers say that Louisville would win by about 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, I think it's worth a shot. I mean, when in doubt, take the dogs in these early games as far as I'm concerned. I think well, how did the over-unders finish week 1?
Mostly to the unders. And you're going to see that because I mentioned this on another show that I did earlier today, is that it's not just the clock rules that we're dealing with. We've got how many? 130 changes at coordinator, offensive, defensive, plus head coach. If you add it all up, you've got, 75% of the teams changed at least one of those positions. So you're going to see scheme changes. You're going to see player movement with portal, unlike you've ever seen. How many people change hands? So it's a lot of this is balancing not just the clock rules, but chemistry. And chemistry the first week of the season is not that great unless you have a 30-point favorite. We saw some of the 30-point favorites, like UCF went over against Kent State. USC went over against San Jose State. But if you have a more competitive game, North Carolina State, Connecticut, Minnesota, Nebraska, they're figuring each other out with a whole bunch of new coaches.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. As Flipper says here in the comments, 7-0 to the under in week 0.
Yeah, I don't think that was true because San Jose State went over.
There was at least one game that went over. Yeah. I know that for sure.
Yeah. Based on opening lines, it was closer to 5-2, 6-1. Closing lines, somebody said it was 4-3. I'm not sure about that, but I can tell you that there's a variety of reasons why unders in competitive games will hit in week 0 and week 1. And the rule changes, the odds makers are going to adjust within 7 days. And you're going to see an equal number of overs and unders, and you're just going to have to use this year's data to combat the over-unders in the NCAA.
Anything else stand out on today's college football board?
No, if you're like me and if you have Spectrum, you don't have to worry about watching anything because they took ESPN off the docket, and that means the ACC network, the SEC network, National Geographic, in case you don't want to watch football or
let's talk about my Disney stock here for 10 minutes.
Yeah, really.
Gosh, dang it, those morons. Anyway, no, I was just kidding about talking about Disney stock, but those people are a disgrace. All right, now we're gonna go for this NFL stuff.
Let's do it.
What's going to be the shock to my system, other than I understand Cooper Kupp had a hamstring issue that's not healing? Is he out week 1 or not looking good week 1? What's going on there?
They'll play at Coy. They don't have to make a decision now because we're still 9 days away from when he has to hit the field. But I would say right now it'd be 40-60 if you ask me whether or not he would actually suit up for that game. And there are injuries that we knew about for Seattle as well in the secondary. But neither of those guys were on the team last year. So that's a different story.
Well, the comedy is my NFL's not coming up. So let's see, Detroit, Kansas City. That's exactly where I expected it to be. Do you think that line's going to hit 6, or do you think that line's going to hit 7?
I think it'll get pushback either way. If it hits 7, you'd get Detroit money. If it hits 6, you'd get KC money. That I think the line is where it needs to be, and I think the books are just going to adjust accordingly after that.
As a Detroit Lions homer, I just don't feel like I'm qualified to comment too much on this game because I'm having a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, of having to try to just stay off of that game, especially with no metrics. If my model said I have to play that game, whether it's against the Lions or on the Lions, I'm playing the game. But seeing as that I don't have the model, I'm bloated with Lions Kool-Aid, quite frankly. But I also feel that I have a concern with the Lions play in preseason. They really sat out the starters, and that has a concern for me. I'm not sure they played enough. And we know Andy Reid in the Mahomes era is averaging over 30 points a game. Game 1, I don't think they've lost game 1. I think they've won by a margin of some preposterous amount of points. One of those may or may not be wrong, but nevertheless, that's going to be a hard time the only thing that I think is going to happen for sure is I think it breaks the NFL record for viewership on a Thursday night opener for the NFL.
Yes, I'm looking at my notes because I'm writing up all the teams right now as well. I'm okay with what Detroit did in terms of playing some of their guys in the preseason. So let me see if I've got the right thing here. Yeah, my biggest question right now in this particular game is Kansas City's pass rush, because they've got a holdout and they've got a guy that left the building. So I think that gives Goff a little bit more time to do some things. If anything, I would lean high scoring, and I wouldn't put out. I mean, I think Detroit's going to be competitive in this game, But then Mahomes and the offense looks pretty good as well. So if anything, I would probably lean to 59 points.
We know that I thought, I don't know what it was, but I was under the misapprehension that game one for Super Bowl victors really was bad. And it's actually the inverse. The Super Bowl victors actually come out pretty well. And it's those Super Bowl losers that are really laying the turds. And that's one of the reasons why I took the Patriots +5 a while ago. And it's an ugly play, but I still like it. But another, feather in Kansas City's cap. It's really hard to take these Lions. I honestly believe that the Lions can win that game. But I am so full of Lions Kool-Aid, I can't be trusted. It's like somebody that's borrowed money doesn't pay it back, and I'm asking to borrow more, and I'll pay it back this time. That's as reliable as I am on this. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't trust Kansas City's defense, and that's why I think Detroit does have a chance. To your Philly point, 6 out of the last 27 for Super Bowl losers covering the spread week 1.
Yeah, they're just asinine. Any of these Sunday games sticking out to? Well, we're still a week ahead. What's on your mind NFL wise? We haven't touched base on the NFL in 2 weeks. Anything on your mind stick out?
Well, the one thing that's interesting is we're going to have 3, maybe even 4 new quarterbacks start week 1. I don't think we had any last year that actually started week 1. So if you look at Houston, let's take a quick look at each team. If you look at Houston starting CJ Stroud, it's a curious decision for me because you're talking about another rebuilt team, 4 coaches in 4 years. And I think Stroud is going to get it handed to him at times when he faces defense, such as Baltimore's defense. Big learning curve to me for Houston's offense. Even though I like their coaching staff, a big learning curve for CJ Stroud.
Then but this Baltimore defense isn't what they were before.
No, well, we'll find out how much having Roquan Smith for a full season matters. I think their front seven is going to be better than advertised. I hate to say it again, Chris, but we've got injuries again in Baltimore's secondary, so they just can't ever stay healthy. The thing is, that's an issue for a quarterback not named CJ Stroud. I think Baltimore will be vulnerable in the secondary until they get their act together that way. But I don't know if Stroud can take advantage of that.
I think, there's comments about the Lions' wide receiver core not being sensational. If you've seen that video, Ben Johnson is a diabolical play caller. You come away from that video understanding real quickly that the Lions don't need the superstar running backs. They don't even need a superstar quarterback at this point. They're running schemes that are putting them in mismatches and in positions of success. For those that don't know it, Goff can break the interception record by game 3, and that's more system-based than Goff-based. That's why I feel that the Lions you can buy into the Lions' hype a little bit more this year because it's more system-based than people realize. What do you think?
2 comments. First of all, Trinity Benson is no longer on the Lions. That really bothers me because he was the 193rd best receiver in the NFC, and he lost his job. That's just sad. No, the Lions room is not good. That's why they have to scheme it up. Yep. The wide receiver room is not good. There was a comment that I'll get to real quick, and Russell had in terms of a season-long prop. Pollard 940 and 1050. My general rule of thumb, because I bet a lot of props, is unless the juice is spectacularly bad, 100 yards for running backs is middling material, if I could say that 3 times. And obviously, the way I operate, I always go under with more money than the over. But 100 yards for rushing would be minimal. You would need probably 150 or more for quarterbacks, usually closer to 200 unless you get favorable juice. And then for wide receivers, you could probably use 75 to 100 as well. That's what I would use for middle action. Pollard scares me, by the way, because there's no Ezekiel Elliott there. I don't really trust any of their backup running backs right now there. Deuce Vaughn is an interesting case, more of a third down option. I think they could run Pollard too much, and that creates an injury concern.
Yeah, I agree there. And as far as Brent says, fade Goff next year when Johnson becomes head coach, I'm going to bring up a topic that's going to blow your mind at some point during this season. I cued Ron in just a little bit. He's sworn to secrecy. I have a concept that nobody's ever talked about. I've never heard anybody talk about it, and I'm going to bring it up within the next few weeks. There's a few depending factors on it. And even if I don't bring it up, somebody bring it up and remind me, because later on you'll understand why I didn't bring it up now. So I think Houston's very underrated. I think Houston could do a lot of damage under the right circumstances. There's no way in hell I'm laying 10 with Baltimore. I believe 10-point favorites, or actually 9-point favorites and above, are covering it like a 15% rate or 20% rate week one. So you've got to be out of your mind to being laying 10 on week one, whether they cover or not. There's just, if I had to bet that game, I would be definitely betting Houston, but I'm going to have a lot of Baltimore money line in play some way, somehow. What was your next?
Next one would be Indianapolis, where you have an extremely raw but incredibly athletic quarterback in Richardson, who comes from the University of Florida, where he put up very mediocre passing stats. And unless your name is Josh Allen, there's not been any other quarterback in NCAA history that's put up those kind of stats and succeeded in the NFL. And I know the NFL is changing, and I know his run skills and his elusiveness, and I don't think he'll be sacked as much as Stroud. So there are factors in his favor, but you're looking at probably a 50% season for him from an accuracy sake, which is ungodly bad in the NFL in this day and age, when the average is roughly 63.5, a little higher than that. That's completely off the radar in terms of statistical significance. So if he's asked to win a game from an offensive standpoint, passing the ball, it's not going to happen. And from a defensive standpoint, until they get out of their soft zone scheme, they're always a come from ahead loss kind of team. So I'm very bearish on Indianapolis, and I didn't want to be with Houston and Indianapolis in the same division. And then Tennessee kind of wait and see. They have some veterans and they have some purging. But I don't see how Indianapolis is consistent at all this year.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. The week one matchup there, I can only see that line hitting 6 at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
In the Indianapolis line, my numbers say the line should be 5. I understand that, but you're looking at the raw quarterback, and even if he looks good week one, because we've seen some rookie quarterbacks win games week one, understand that the more tape you have on a guy, the more you're going to scheme for him. He's not going to be able to read defenses. Most rookie quarterbacks, even if their name is Troy Aikman or Peyton Manning, have trouble reading NFL defenses their first year in the NFL, especially starting from day one. So, I don't see the line going down. Jacksonville hasn't done anything wrong. Everybody sees them as the clear favorite in that division. I think you're going to see a lot of people who like teases, which, again, that's a bone of contention for me, especially week one. But Jacksonville is going to be a trendy tease team probably in week one.
What do we see in that Arizona? There's another first-time starter, right?
Yeah, well, they either get Joshua Dobbs or they get Clayton Tune. And by the way, I was fully on board with having Clayton Tune be the starter and Colt McCoy not being on the team. Colt McCoy is good for a maximum 6 quarters in a row. Then his body type wears down and he's done. Excellent mind, might make a very good quarterback coach in the future. Clayton Tune, contrary to all these other quarterbacks, he threw probably 10,000 passes in college. He was there for 4 or 5 years, most of which were as a starter, most of which were under the Dana Holgorsen Houston system, where they were creative with throwing the ball around. Now, he's going to be a turnover machine probably as a rookie, especially with the lack of talent around him in Arizona. But Clayton Tune I think he has a worthwhile shot at some point in time when the roster gets better or with another team, but sticking in the NFL.
Why is that
I'm
total
okay
only
with
38? Doesn't that total seem low?
Let's see. What do we got here? Arizona, Washington. Washington is going to play it very close to the vest. They're going to play the front seven. Arizona's probably going to try to run the ball with the new staff. I think it's a function of the fact that these teams' game plan is going to be a certain way. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't go over in the game because I think Washington wants to make this a 20-10 type win. I don't think Washington wants to do anything special with its quarterback who has one career start in Sam Howell. I think they just want to take what the defense gives them with Arizona and just methodically move the chain.
Okay, and rookie starter number 4.
Yeah, rookie starter number 4. Where are we with that one? Carolina. That's the last one. And that's, he had kind of a so-so camp. Carolina's defense looked good again. I was wondering what would happen. Would there be some differences in the preseason because they lost their coordinator? They have a new staff and everything. So Carolina's defense is going to be interesting. And they're going against a quarterback, Desmond Ridder, who had only 3 or 4 career starts. There's really there's like 10 or 12 quarterbacks that are near elite. And there's a group of 10 or 12 quarterbacks that have 4 starts or fewer. Or 7 starts or fewer if you add in Brock Purdy. So you have the haves and the have-nots, and you have 2 games again with a total of 4 starts. Atlanta's Ridder and Bryce Young in Carolina. So I think Carolina doesn't have a lot of weapons offensively. They're going to rely on the run game this year and hope that their defense keeps things close in the fourth quarter. Bryce Young seems like a pretty smart quarterback. He may get some more reads as compared to some of the other rookie quarterbacks, but his offensive line is probably not going to do him many favors. As Chris, you know what I've said about tight ends. Rookie quarterbacks need that tall target at tight end, and Carolina is kind of deficient in that area, and that's an area that unfortunately rookie quarterbacks need to have better tight ends. In Houston and Carolina, we don't have that. In Indianapolis, it's questionable. One of their guys went on IR, I think. So you're looking around at these young quarterbacks. They need that tight end.
Russell says the Colts have lost 9 straight week 1 games. I know they've had, 7 years in a row of new quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. Well, it could be 10. There's no question. They're excited about their quarterback. It's drawing a lot of fan buzz and so on. But again, that defense is not dressed for success right now. And you've got a lot of weapons on Jacksonville. So if they come out actually ready to play, then I think, sure, they can make it 10 in a row.
Well, with that Jacksonville team, we're looking at a team that bettered their previous season by 6 games, same as the Lions did. So that happens. A team can match that about 20% of the time going forward. So it's very unlikely Jacksonville or Detroit even matches what they did last year. Jacksonville's defense has some holes. Are they going to be able to step it up?
2 things about what happened with Jacksonville in preseason. The one thing that happened is that their offensive line is not quite gelling right now. I think Lawrence can navigate around it, but they have a suspension for the first 4 games, one of their tackles. And their secondary was probably the weak link defensively in terms of the preseason. They didn't add a lot of bodies there. So once again, if a quarterback can take advantage of that, Jacksonville is vulnerable in the secondary, but it's going to have to be a broken play for Indy. Richardson eluding the rush and hitting a broken play because he can't read the field right now as a rookie and 13 starts in college.
Yeah. Well, the Green Bay line was bet in the last 4 days, which I fully anticipated. I'm kind of surprised that Buffalo keeps going up. Do you think that keeps going up, or do you think that's just going to get hit by the Jets at some point?
I think it'll be hit by the Jets.
Yeah.
I think there'll be late action on the Jets. And according to my power ratings, the Chicago Green Bay line is accurate. Where it stands now, again, we talked about this in our one show a couple weeks ago, and this is the Bears season. It's weird to say that because I never say that about a week one game. But if they can't beat the team that they've been itching to beat for years and years and years in week one as a home game, if they give up a home divisional game right now, considering that Minnesota isn't a horrible team, Detroit's ascending, and Green Bay would have stole a road win, the Bears season is on the line right now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We'll do a segment next week on our segment next week is going to be the same thing we did last year, where we're going to go through each game and what why the game doesn't matter and what we're looking for and why we won't overreact no matter what happens in each game. But that one is going to be a little bit different. I think we've already let the cat out of the bag. If Chicago loses that, that's a really bad sign. But if Chicago wins that one, it doesn't really say all that much. They're supposed to win that one, right?
Well, the good news, and this is a little tease as well. When we get Ted back for Sports USA and we do the Friday show, we usually spend a little bit more time talking about his two games that air live on Sports USA. Green Bay Chicago is one of them.
Great.
So he may have some audio clips as well from that game. So, and I'm going to feed him a couple of questions beforehand. So I'm excited to talk about that game. I think it's an underrated, exciting game for week one.
Well, when you really look at this schedule, if you really follow football, there is no dud game.
Yeah.
Where's the dud game?
I mean, people will not tune in much to see Arizona, Washington.
But it's still going to be interesting. It's a crash and burn type situation.
Yeah. Well, there's just so many quarterback uncertainties, and then you got the new coaches, new coordinators. There's something to watch in every game. I agree.
If any one of these games was the Thursday night opener, I would actually be interested to see him. I mean, even the Carolina Atlanta game, the Arizona Washington game, I'd be happy to watch those. Jacksonville Colts, I'd be happy to watch those on the opener. There's
some really good games, I think.
So they did it. They did. I don't know how the rest of the schedule looks, but they did a good job over there. And enough of that. We'll hit the NFL. What the hell else is going on? What's in your planning mode for the next few days?
Where I'm at right now is I'm writing up notes for every single game on the NFL schedule. I'm about halfway done. Once I finish that up, I can finish up my season previews. And that's going to go game by game, what my projected win total is, what the key games are for each team, and my personal game plan, my personal strategy. I'm going to fade this team early, and I'm going to set my SAT totals. I'm going to set my pass deep percentage totals. I'm going to have everything laid up so that I don't overreact. You and I have talked about that. We're not going to trust our work. We do all this work and then we throw it out the window after week 4. But in week 4, if I see a team, let's say I projected like a 10-6 sack ratio after week 4, and the numbers are 6-10, and they're 3-1, then I know what I'm going to do with that. They're 3-1, but they didn't meet my expectations based on some of the metrics that I'm looking at, some of the metrics that I think are key in terms of offensive line versus defensive line, depending on who they play, quarterbacks that are mobile versus quarterbacks that aren't mobile. So those are the things I'm lining up right now so that when I change over my stats after 4 weeks, I'll have a definite game plan in mind because I've thought about it beforehand.
I'm going to be playing strong catch-up. You and I do college football from exactly the opposite approach. I mean, I don't think you can get more opposite. It's actually worth discussing. I can go into the college football season completely blind. And while you could shame most TV analysts with what you know about what's going on with obscure teams. So, both methods have viability, and it's interesting how that works. So for me, I had done zero college football preparation. I've been focused on the NFL, but I want to, I used to do NFL after a 100-day vacation in Thailand, and I would need a vacation from the vacation. I couldn't name 10 quarterbacks. I couldn't name 6 head coaches. I couldn't name a player on every team. I may not have even remembered every nickname. I don't know. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. But I used to go into NFL blind, and my results have not changed all that much. I just have a much better comfort level. And I know at some point I'm optimistic that it'll help out to be able to just have more working knowledge. The more working knowledge I don't allow, and I always preach this, I don't allow it to convolute my thinking. I think that's the biggest mistake NFL cappers make, is that they go into the minutia of details and they just drown themselves in nonsense. And I know from experience, you don't need to. Just a working knowledge you can get by with that. Don't drown yourself with thinking you have to know everything. If you're just tuning in to the season and you feel lost, and it doesn't matter. But as Ron, you just said, by week 3, by week 4, we're all that paperwork we had, this whole no work, you might as well just throw it in the fire. All that work is nearly useless.
Well, let me make a lot of comments to that as I'm touching on this. First, in the college, our approaches are different in terms of how we approach the season. But once we turn over our stats, we've talked for a dozen years, our approach to line of scrimmage, to rushing data, tabulating that data actually does mirror each other. So we're not, in terms of metrics, I want to say to the audience, no, we're not apart in terms of that kind of thing. In terms of approach, because I've got, this is the lowest number of season futures that I have, 38 over under season win totals. So I have to have a working knowledge of these teams, the schedule intricacies and everything in order to get going on that. I don't need that information in order to bet week by week necessarily, but I need that information in order to see the global picture of everything. Now with the NFL, I think one of the things that we help each other on, at least from my end to your end, is that schedule analysis report that I do in May. I think it helps fill in the gaps so that because you're going to trust your process after 3 or 4 weeks, you've got something very fine tuned that you don't have to worry about. But it is helpful to know when a team is playing a team with early season revenge, or when there's a situation that goes on where it's 3 road games in a row, or 3 games in 12 days, or new coaches who don't even have any bye weeks until week 9, 10, or 11. So they have no chance to make changes, and new coaches are overwhelmed from the beginning. There's so many schedule nuggets that I find for each team that really does rest differential, for example, with Kansas City and other teams. That stuff is important to incorporate, not to use on its own, but to incorporate with all the metrics that we use and think that are important.
I was just posting some of these. It's, when you're working these controls, I was more concerned about the chat. I'm trying to really appreciate the viewer comments and such. And I'm not sure what's getting posted where. I'm looking at a StreamYard feed. I'm looking at a YouTube feed. Well, it all come out in the wash later. So I'm just, highlighting a handful of comments, but we've got, lots of comments in here, which is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Russell, first of all, thanks for your comments about my health. I appreciate, I really cherish the days that I feel good, and I'm not going to take it for granted that I feel good right now. And there was also a comment that was made about the Cincinnati Bengals. in terms of overs and unders, and I kind of agree with what was there. The Bengals started slow last week. We saw that coming. And then I was ahead of the bandwagon with seeing how the Baltimore-Cincinnati dynamic. I think you could see the same thing with Cincinnati. I love the way Cincinnati drafts. They do great job succession planning, but there's still a learning curve. There's still a learning curve with Orlando Brown at left tackle, which I don't think is his best position. Might be a minority opinion there. I love what they've done with the secondary, but still they lost Bates in the secondary, and you can't replace that institutional knowledge memory week one, even if you've drafted some pretty good rookies and second-year guys. So Cincinnati's going to get it together. There's no question about it, but it might be a slow start.
Well, that division is just, my gosh,
brutal.
My gosh, what a division. It's, I'll tell you, it's the way this season maps out, it really is hard not to be, if you really are following what's going on, it's really hard not to really be enthralled with what we're going to see this season. As far as I'm concerned, there are just so many storylines, even within the bad divisions. But these good divisions are really good.
Yes, they are.
And these mediocre divisions are so evenly matched that makes them really good. And just the scheduling makes it really hard to see what's going to be going on.
Yeah, I have an Atlanta comment, and I hate to always dwell on Atlanta. I actually think Atlanta's improving, except for the pass rush part of the equation. But the thing of it is, when we look at Atlanta, and let's say they win 9 games this year, which is very doable, this is still at best an average team that is lucky that it's not playing Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh twice each, and lucky that it's not playing Miami with Tua, or Buffalo with a fully healthy secondary, or and whoever else is in that division, New England with their defense. And it's just Atlanta has a cushy schedule. They get to play the Indy-Jacksonville division, and they get to play Carolina twice. They get to play the Saints and Tampa twice each. I do think Atlanta's improved, but let's not get carried away if they have a New York Giant type moment in the playoffs, where the Giants had a very good season, very good coaching, very good drafting, and then they found out what it was like to play better teams when it came to the postseason.
I think what spurs people's interest in the Falcons is that they've won 7 games in a row somehow 2 years in a row, and they choked away a lot of games. So that's why I think there's even more optimism, saying, wait a minute, this team snuck in 7 games and they were complete and utter garbage. And you now you're adding, to some of the positions, some of the weaknesses that they had, can't they do 2 games better? There's logic behind that. And then you take a look at the schedule, you want to bet against them. There's 10 games in a row against non-quality quarterbacks, I believe. So,
yep, I agree completely with that. And Desmond Ridder has an advantage. He has a tight end that's good in Pitts, and he has an offensive line that's better than average by NFL standards. He has things other rookie quarterbacks do not.
That's for sure. And the thing that I like to point out, it's not my original thought, but it's true, is that when people point out this 10-game stretch of bad quarterbacks that they face, wait a minute, Ritter's unproven. How do we know he's unproven? So what does that really mean? So, there's always different angles to look at things, and you can – that's the issue when we're talking about these games. If you can't argue a reason why each side should win and cover a game, then you don't have your homework done. As far as I'm concerned, if you can't argue why every single team can exceed or go underneath their win total, then your job is not done. Would you agree with that?
Unless you have a coach named Lovie Smith, there are certain coaches or Urban Meyer for that matter, you automatically get better when that's the danger of thinking that Houston's not so good. But wait, Lovie Smith's not in the building now.
Right.
So, and I do think that that's worth something. I have a bottom 5 coaches poll every year that I put out. And at least 2, usually 3 of those guys get fired, and the other ones make me a lot of money. And we saw that week 0 with Jacksonville State played University of Texas at El Paso, and that coach, Dana Dimmel, sorry to mention his name, is a 3-time entry into my bottom 5 coaches list. And there's no way Jacksonville State was the better team last week, but they lost, or at least they beat, a team that just was awful. Clock management, play calling, everything. And the same is true in the NFL. If you have a disparity at head coach, that's why you have to watch the Chargers a little bit. I'm kind of bullish on the Chargers, but they have to make better late game decisions.
Well, and that's my number one worry about the Lions. They were a laughingstock of strategy the first half of last season. And then Campbell was making 1 to 2 egregious errors a game. You can't get by, and it showed on the win-loss. And then I think there was only 1 or 2 for the last half of the schedule, and I don't know how that got corrected, but it did get corrected, and that led to some wins. So we got to hope that as a Lions fan that stands.
So, I have a Lions question for you.
Yeah.
And I'm non-committal on this. This is not something I use in particular, unless it steamrolls during the season. The Lions are currently 4 wins, 12 losses, and 1 tie on the road the last 2 years. And historically, they've had trouble on the road, especially as a road favorite. This should be a different team. And if they can get an early road win under their belt, I think that's different. But going into the season, do you care at all about that stat?
No. I you know what? We've been through in Detroit these optimistic years, but for whatever reason, is the color changed for everybody else on my screen, or is it just on? Is my video okay?
It's okay by me.
Oh, okay. It changed on mine. We've gone through these bouts of optimism with the Lions. This is different. There is the culture has changed. The lovable losers, the shoot themselves in the paw type. Hey, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to have some foul-ups, just like any other team, but it's different. It's a different aura. You've got a different group of people in there, and the way that team is drafting character guys that they want in that lineup is just fascinating. I think it's different. I honestly, deep down believe it. I would bet on it. I really would. And if they had not made such a big jump last year, you got to remember too, they lost to a 64, 66-yard field goal with no time. They lost that Minnesota game. There was another horrible beat that they had. They should have had 2-3 more wins. So asking them to replicate that is daunting usually, but it's not. It has been seen before, and I believe Ben Johnson is possibly generational coach. I believe he is.
Yeah. Birdie asked, why does 4-10 not, 4-12-1 not matter? I will say that those kind of stats for college kids matter in the college game. They have to get that win, and it's very dangerous betting against a team betting for a team that continually loses on the road. However, in the NFL, every season starts anew. These are professionals. The problem I have with 4-12-1 is if they lose a couple of early games on the road, then it starts mattering to me, because then it gets in their heads. But I've seen Seattle and I've seen some other teams get that out of their system right away. So I personally don't put any stock in it in September. But if it continues, then it gets in their heads. And then you got the coaches trying to over-adjust, or they fly in a day early or late or something like that. Then you got all this other stuff. But I think that's a little bit dangerous to start out and thinking that that's a big thing.
Yeah, I agree. And, the monkey is off their backs because that Green Bay road win, they had a couple of good road wins. They did lay a big turd against Carolina. That was embarrassing last season. But the monkey's off their back. As you said, these guys are professionals, and the home field does not matter as much. I mean, it used to be 3 points. in some games it's 0 points.
Yeah.
So that's why it doesn't matter as much. It really doesn't. It's going to matter probably to the first-year starting quarterbacks, maybe, and the new head coaches and those types of situations more. But now, you've got 3 years of Lions experience leading that team, and you're going in with confidence. You're going on with a uptick. I think that they're embracing their expectations. And I just think, I think it all looks good. I really do.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a college example again when I talk about the one thing that concerns me about the Lions is expectations.
Yep.
College teams that think they're in an upper class but haven't been in that upper class before, like North Carolina State last year, like Tennessee a couple of years back, Virginia Tech. There are some teams that want to be in that next level. Iowa State was a very good example when they were supposed to be top 10. Indiana was all of a sudden going to be good. They go back to their playing weight. They don't make it in the college. In the NFL, you have to get over the hump. The old guys will remember Dick Vermeil. That Philadelphia team didn't do well. And then they suddenly learned how to win. And then they got better, and then they got to the Super Bowl and so on. Detroit's in that stage right now. The expectations are definitely higher. They're the clear-cut favorite to win the division. Now we find out if they meet them. There's no reason they shouldn't with the scheme and the character that you talked about. I know we're talking a lot about the Lions, but this is the over-the-hump year. I don't know if it happens in September. I don't know if it happens in December. But in the NFL, you have to learn how to win if you're a franchise that's not used to winning. That's just the way it is.
Well, that's the same way in hockey and basketball for sure. What's the other? Baseball, not so much. But every great NBA champion seems to have had to go past a nemesis at some point. That's what makes sports so cool.
I know we're winding down, but I want to ask you about a team that I haven't yet charted out, and that's Las Vegas. What are your early thoughts? Jimmy G's there, a little bit more experience, a better draft than that horrendous draft in 2022, but still roster purging. Some questions about McDaniels as a head coach. What are your thoughts?
I went out to lunch last week with Mike Pritchard from VSiN, former number 1 draft pick from Colorado, played in the NFL for years. And he's really high on the Raiders. He's really high on them. He thinks that they aren't going to fold up shop. He thinks they're going to come to play, and this isn't a lost season. He's pretty gung-ho on the over. I was running the numbers recently on Garoppolo. Garoppolo's so underappreciated. I believe lifetime, I don't have the stat. You'd be shocked at what his lifetime ATS record is. He's so underrated. I believe it's over 57%. That's not chicken feed. That's bizarre. So, if the guy can just stay healthy, you got the running back, you got the tight end, you've got some tools to work with. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't think so. Can they do some damage? Yeah. We still got to worry because I don't remember the first 4 games out of the block, but it's very easy for them to start off 0-4, and then all bets are off, obviously.
Yeah.
But if they can start off 2-2 somehow, well, now all of a sudden that division gets real interesting.
Yeah, my 2 thoughts coming in was, number 1, Jimmy G will be tested because with New England, he had a powerhouse offensive line and a guy named Rob Gronkowski, which Sanford, now he didn't play that much, but when he had to, he learned under those circumstances. Then he goes to San Francisco with a powerhouse offensive line and George Kittle. So he's a veteran quarterback. He should be able to navigate much more freely than some of the youngster quarterbacks. But the offensive line on the Raiders, not that good. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The other issue that I would have that would be a positive for them is like I mentioned, I'm not sure the Chargers will hold up the deal in crunch time. And I know the Raiders have played Kansas City tough, the Chargers tough, and for that matter, the other team in their division, Denver, tough as well. So they're very competitive within their division. They don't always win the games, but they're very competitive within that division. So any kind of extra boost from the roster and from Jimmy G would be a good thing. Then again, Derek Carr is a very good quarterback too. So it's not as if Jimmy G is necessarily an upgrade. The Vegas has to be better in other areas, and that I just don't know.
We don't know. And, I'm sure Sharp or somebody else puts this out, but I haven't seen it. There has to be a chart of preseason strength of schedule and what it ended up being. And those numbers, I do know I've seen them in the past, at least on specific teams, that it never ends up. There's no relationship between preseason strength of schedule and what it ended up being. So when we look at all these tough schedules and all these easy schedules that teams have, you throw that out the window by week 8. You realize, this team is folding. Look at last year. Everybody had Seattle as a cakewalk all year long, and they dominated for periods of time. Nobody anticipated Jacksonville. We have 4 teams every year not expected to make the playoffs that make the playoffs, and vice versa. There's a big shift just right there, just on the playoff teams shuffling in and out. We're losing 8 to 10 head coaches a year. There's a lot of variables that you can make this strength of schedule into nonsense if you really want.
Yeah, one thing Sharp and a couple of other people do is they look back and they see what quarterbacks were faced during the year. It's not just the teams, but there were 3 teams last year, I think, that faced 7 or more backup quarterbacks during the season. And that changes everything. I mean, there were some teams that got very lucky that they went 5 weeks in a row without facing a quarterback with a pulse.
I charted actually, was that with you? I went through and I charted, I think I was on the phone with you. I was charting the number of top 5 or top 10 quarterbacks? I think top 5 quarterbacks. It must be top 10 quarterbacks that each team has to face throughout the year. And, obviously a division like the AFC East, doubles up because you got to face Allen twice. But that division, I think New England has to face 10. And each team in that division is like 8, 9, 10 top 10 quarterbacks that they have to face. And there were teams that I came up with that were facing like 3, like Atlanta and other teams. So I think that might be a more important metric to kind of evaluate than at overall strength of schedule anticipated.
It's incredible. You hit it on the head with Atlanta. I mean, they have 37 sacks in their last 34 games, which is less than an average for one team in any year. And now they're going to face 10 quarterbacks that may not even belong in the NFL, at least not right now. I would be disappointed if Atlanta doesn't have at least 30 sacks this year, even without emphasizing the pass rush, because they're just not facing that many good quarterbacks.
I have not read the Billy Walters book. I do. Somebody sent me the PDF of all the charts I plan to look at. I'm going to look at it this weekend, and I'll comment on those at a later time. And yes, as Bertie says about the Pats were very high up on my model last year. But if you closely examine what they did last year, I don't know what your work showed you, Ron, but they failed miserably against any good team. And they built their stats on all the bad teams or the bad quarterbacks that they faced.
Yeah. Speed hurt them. Speedy quarterbacks hurt them last year. They have a sound. They teach their defense. I mean, they're really good at teaching. Belichick's really good at teaching. They play fundamentally sound defense. But the NFL is no longer fundamentally scripted and sound. The NFL is all about variance and RPOs and a lot of other things. And so New England, the tougher the quarterbacks that they're going to face this year, it's going to present some challenges because athleticism is going to matter more in the NFL as teams get spread out. And that's where New England could be a little behind the curve.
My model does not. My model would have to account separately for play calling adjustments and stuff like that. Any model that I'm using is numeric based for the most part. So that has to be a manual adjustment, similar to injuries and stuff like that. What day are we going to try to do this on Tuesdays regularly?
I think we should try for a Tuesday. Yeah, I think a Tuesday, and then if we get it together, we got a couple of games that we could do with Ted on Fridays, shorter show, but just our thoughts heading into the weekend.
In case people, so we're going to shoot for Tuesday. We'll get a time ironed out. We'll try to stick to a consistent time on Tuesdays to do similar as this. What did we end up doing last year? We were like 11, 12, 1.
Right? Yeah, I agree. The set schedule works. I'm kind of between two houses right now, so it may be a little bit crazy on some Tuesdays. But once we get into kind of a set routine, once I get into a set routine, then we can hone in on the time schedule, because it's really advantageous to brainstorm off one another, especially early in the year when we may be seeing things a little bit differently from a team and say, well, that doesn't matter, or that does matter. But it's just little things that make a difference in being ahead of the curve. Like the whole San Francisco thing. Trey Lance was supposed to be the guy 1 step back, 2 steps forward in San Francisco. He's not even with San Francisco right now. But as soon as Jimmy G got into the lineup, it changed the dynamic of how ready San Francisco would be earlier in the year.
Yeah, I'm going to lean toward later on. I think that might be a little too early on Tuesdays for some reason, but we might jostle the times, the first couple of weeks, but we'll try to settle in at a certain time. In case anybody is unaware of it, we're going to also have we're going to try to do the Friday show, like we did last year. And then I'm going to be doing another project, which I'm excited about, on Wednesdays at noon with BetUS with Jared Smith and Steve Fezzik, a quite unusual trio to say the least. And I think that's going to be quite entertaining, possibly. Looking forward to that show also. When the goal is to have different content along the 3 different avenues. At least on my front. I know, Ron, what are you going to be doing? Any sideline work you're going to be doing?
Yeah. 2 things I'll mention. Number one, and thanks to Chris, is worked an agreement to put up, if you like NCAA football, there are 98 college football previews up at Wager Talk. You can check them out just by clicking on the links in college football news. During the year, Jeffrey Dawson does the East Coast Sports Investors. And I hope to be on him just chatting in general about the process and things, both college and a little bit of NFL once a week. I have not honed in on a day yet for that. And then occasional guest appearances. And then the only other thing I would say is that every once in a while, I might tweet out some interesting game notes on Sunday mornings before the game. Don't know how much I'll get into props this year. It depends. Having a little issue in terms of getting down personally on that. May want to free up some of my time in some other areas. But hopefully I'll be around and healthy and focused, because it doesn't work if you're not focused.
We'll try to hit on Randy's question on a best teaser bet of the week next week. My last run through with all the books was infuriating because they didn't have the limits up, or they weren't available. There was a bunch of nuisance issues I was running into that prevented me from putting in a lot of stuff I wanted to Sunday before my surgery. So I need to get back and revisit that before I'm giving out any opinions, before I have my stuff locked and loaded for myself. Appreciate everybody joining. This was completely impromptu. We didn't know what we were going to talk about. We'll have a better idea in future episodes. We really appreciate the participation because it helps us to think about each other, what we should be talking about also. So this is like everybody's welcome to join my Discord. Ron's active in the Discord. A lot of the people that were in comments I know are active in the Discord. We don't want some big, giant, huge community Discord. We want a small community of like-minded people trying to exchange information and smarten each other up and educate each other. And that's what it's about. It's about the quality. There's a half a dozen huge, giant Discords that are available to join, and there's nothing wrong at all with any of them. And that's what makes it easier to build a small, close-knit community in the Discord that we have. So you're welcome to join, and hope to see as much quality participation as we can going forward. We'll be back Tuesday around, let's call it mid-afternoon. Let's shoot for Tuesday, maybe around 2.
Probably a good time. Probably a good time.
2,
there,
maybe somewhere between 2, maybe 3. I don't know, but
may or may not be later next week, but we'll see.
Okay, sounds good, everybody. Thanks for joining. Good to see you're healthy, Ron, and we will be catching up with you guys soon.